Good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. May I take the opportunity to welcome you to this morning's seminar. I hope you are all keeping safe and taking all the necessary safety precautions as we go about our normal duties in these very difficult and trying times for a lot of us. You're welcome once again to this meeting, which has been organized by the International Institute for Peace and Security Studies and Crisis Action. As we all know, this is a very, very important topic that we are going to discuss here today. We all know that in spite of the current challenges and threats to peace and security and the health system in the world, there are also ongoing crises which haven't relented. We know that the Sahel region is one of the most troubled regions in Africa. And so this is why we feel it's important that we continue the discussions on the subject. My name is Emma Brickheim. I'm the Deputy Director at the Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center based in Accra, Ghana. This morning, we have a number of speakers lined up to help us unpack some of the issues that we are going to discuss today regarding the Sahel. We have a keynote speaker in the person of Professor Anwar Bukar, who is from the McDaniel College in Maryland, USA, in the Department of Political Science and International Studies, as well as a number of discussants. And so without taking too much of your time, I just wanted to first of all clarify a number of rules. Once you are not presenting or making an intervention, we request that either you mute your device, your telephone, your phone, or your computer, mute it so that there is less interruption in the feedback. May we also inform you that this session is being recorded for note-taking purposes. In addition, we would like to indicate that we are operating on Chatham House rules. We are operating on Chatham House rules, which means that you're free to use the information that is going to be presented at this conference or seminar, but please do not use the identity or affiliation of the speaker or participants, and these may not be revealed or identified. So without much further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Jonas Adey-Adeto, who is the Director of the Institute for Peace and Security Studies, as well as Ms. Sue Mbaya, who is Africa Union Director, Crisis Action, to present the welcome and introductory remarks. Thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, excellent. Excellencies, honorables, dignitaries, very, very warm welcome to all of you. I'm very happy to see ourselves still alive, not in quarantine or somewhere else. So that's, I think, a really great achievement, because life first. And our today's discussion seems to be part of that, AU's engagement in the Sahel crisis. And I'm delighted to see very remarkable speakers and fascinating, of course, facilitators there, just as I can see from the list here. When I just take a closer look at Sahel and the word crisis, I think it's one region, multiple crises one can think of. Just about 3-4 months ago, 2 months ago, in March, we were in Senegal, Dakar, discussing almost the same issue, particularly climate and environment crisis in the Sahel region and Sahel-Sahara Strip, and how we can contribute as both human beings and, of course, same time Africans. And in that, we tried to focus how to possibly probe the right question, how to ask the right question, because we are so much surrounded by different crises, and how can we probe precisely which problem should be given priority? I'm very happy, to be honest, to see real concern from all human beings, because it is a clear understanding that security is indivisible. What happened in Wuhan, China, how much it is rocking the whole world. So Sahel's security is Africa's security. It is global security. And when you see particularly Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, and Niger, in terms of Human Development Index or Global Peace Index, you can very quickly tell, for instance, 181 out of 187, that is Human Development Index of Burkina Faso, or Chad 183rd position as compared to 187 countries. Mali 175, Niger 186. This is telling, to be honest, how complex crisis is definitely making us crucible. As we are crucible, I know I say we African, I mean, also humanity should not be divided, because I'm sure one for all for one works very, very, very well these days, because even so multilateralism is politically being killed, assassinated, I would say, deliberately. I think it's time for us to come back so as to collectively address these questions, because one's problem is common problem, all problems. So injustice one place is injustice everywhere, just like that of George Floyd's case. So honestly speaking, we are expecting from these remarkable, fascinating presenters, at least some of the specific ways how to engage, that is AU's engagement in the Sahel crisis, how we are to engage in the crisis, in managing it, in preventing it, and at the same time also contributing our own share, so as to build better Africa, which aligns with Africa we want for 2063 agenda, and of course with 2030, that of the UN development plan, sustainable development plan. So in short, I don't really have to take a lot of time, because we are very happy to engage into more of the discussions. Even I haven't said anything about what IPSS does, how IPSS is engaging, what's being done, so as to say those policy papers that we are engaging, producing every time on those specific areas, on Sahel, Sahara, Horn of Africa, Southern Africa, in all cases, so as to address those intellectual problems, to deal with Africa's problems, which are so multiple and so compounded. So let's listen first to the experts, and then we may, of course, engage actively, and I'm sure we can also share what we can possibly do so as to deal with this crying for solution crisis, if we can have this African approach to that. Great. So after having said that, I think from IPSS aspect, which always stands for peace, security, development, education, and of course transforming Africa, and of course contributing its own small contribution for the better, for the Africa we want to be built, which is already articulated very clearly in Agenda 2063. So with that very, very short remark, may I once again wish you the best of the opportunities and excellent engagement as we go along. And may I say that is, I declare that our briefing session is officially opened. God bless Africa. God bless each of you. And thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Jonas. We'll now invite Ms. Sumbaya, the AU Director of the Crisis Action, to also give some introductory remarks. So are you here? Okay, well, it looks like Susan with that at the moment. We'd like to proceed with the keynotes address. Before we do that, I just want to briefly introduce the keynote presenter, Professor Noah Bukar. He is a professor of counterterrorism and countering violent extremism. Dr. Anwar Bukar works closely with African governments and non-governmental security sector leaders on developing and implementing activities and programs relating to counterterrorism and countering violent extremism. His research focuses on the dynamics of radicalization and violent extremism in Africa. Prior to joining the Africa Center, Dr. Bukar was a non-resident in the Middle East program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and an associate professor of international relations at McDaniel College. He has served on several advisory boards and committees on the Sahel and North Africa, including at the Africa Peacebuilding Network at the Social Science Research Council. From August 2015 to July 2017, Dr. Bukar served at the Institute for Peace and Security Studies in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, as a lead facilitator of its flagship program, the Executive Masters in Managing Peace and Security in Africa. His research has been published in numerous leading policy publications and academic journals. I myself, as a researcher, have used a lot of his research work. He routinely conducts field work in Africa and consults frequently for the African Union, World Bank, United Nations, the US State Department, and European governments. So Dr. Bukars, the floor is yours, please. Let's all welcome him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mbaya. Thank you, Dr. Adeto. Excellencies, it's really a pleasure to be back at IPSS, even if it's virtually, and to see the director. Hi. So yeah, the Sahel, it's a topic of interest to me and to all of you, obviously. As you know, the Sahel, faces a cluster of challenges. 33 million people are food insecure. Population growth shows no signs of slowing. The shifts in climate have worsened the region's existing vulnerabilities. Insecurity is escalating as we see every day, and it's spreading across porous borders throughout the Sahel region, despite an expanding cast of security actors. We have MINUSMA, the multinational joint task force, the G5 Sahel force, the French Operation Barkhane, in addition, to soldiers of the United States, Germany, Belgium, Britain, and Italy. Despite all of this, Al-Qaeda-linked groups, the Islamic State affiliates, and other violent extremist groups, they continue to attract recruits and financing, shrewdly exploiting opportunities created by state fragility, exclusionary governance, and local intercommunal conflicts, such as herder-farmer competition and land disputes. The surge in violent extremism and terrorism has also led to a spike in the prevalence of civilian self-defense militias and vigilantes. The proliferation of these actors constitute a major challenge to the authority of poorly equipped and trained security forces. Because when militias turn predatory and discriminatory, they may fan the growth of insurgencies in much the same way that state predation and violence play an important role in driving some Sahelian youths toward violent extremism and insurgency. The vast majority of studies of the Sahel, they tend to treat extremist insurgencies as a contest between governments and violent groups. But to unpack such conflicts, I think we need to examine the role that violent extremist groups, states, self-defense militias, and other armed actors, they play as providers of violence. All of these actors, they have a multi-layered and significant impact on conflict dynamics. So we need a fine-grained understanding of the social and political context that aids, or that helps us understand how these actors, they operate and how they interact with each other. The dynamic of interactions between violent extremist groups, self-defense groups and militias and other armed actors are likely to influence the dynamics of conflicts in the Sahel. So to generate new results in the struggle against, violent extremism, policymakers, security officials, and practitioners, all of us, we must rethink existing assumptions and methods. And to do so, we need first to, better understand the contextual drivers of insecurity. And in this case, I'm talking about violent extremism, and to evaluate the intervention approaches. Luckily, more evidence-based knowledge is available to help us and to help Sahelian countries identify the relevant drivers and the conflict dynamics that enable violent extremist groups to flourish in the Sahel. The first one is one of the drivers is the behavior of the states themselves and their security sector institutions. There is a growing body of literature that shows how, state predation and violence play an important role in driving youth toward violent extremism and insurgency. Outrage at widespread government corruption and abuse by the security services is a potent mobilizer. I mean, the arguments and the claims of violent extremist groups may seem spurious, right? They're used for propaganda. But nonetheless, for an appreciable number of young people who are denied any legitimate avenues of redress, recourse to violence, unfortunately, seem as the last recourse, as the recourse of last resort. So, and much of the locally informed research validates this critical role that state behavior, that government-sanctioned or perpetrated violence plays in fueling the scourge of violent extremism. So that's number one. Number two is group-based marginalization. Economic, social, and political marginalization is widely believed to provide the ground, for recruitment by these groups. More specifically, when marginalization coincides with a country's ethnic, religious, or regional fault lines, the risk that affected groups and individuals may be receptive to recruitment to violent extremism increases significantly. And again, there is an increasing body of evidence-led research that demonstrates that there is at least a correlation between group-based exclusion and increased support for violent extremist groups. The third point is, and I'm looking here again at the drivers of violent extremism, is security and service delivery gaps. Several studies on conflict-affected countries that stress that governments' inability to provide basic security and social services deepen governance gaps that violent extremist groups exploit. I mean, in the most peripheral regions and rural areas where the police are absent, where rampant insecurity, banditry abounds, violent extremist groups, they project themselves as protectors to young people who are expected to defend their families and property. And we see this with the Fulanis and others. So in a number of contexts, violent extremist groups, also inspire wide appeal by delivering basic services, including providing seeds and fertilizer, digging wells, securing pasture land for herders, running slaughterhouses for the cattle. I mean, this approach helps violent extremist groups gain support, while unfortunately further eroding the legitimacy and credibility of governments. So the challenge is now, how do you respond to violent extremism? Well, first, let's not oversimplify conflicts, right? It's vital that we understand violent movements in depth. Why are people fighting? What's the logic of violence? Could dialogue and negotiation with some elements be possible at some point? And two, understand other actors that are responsible for violence, that are responsible for injustice, whether that's state actors, or otherwise. Two, we have to improve the behavior of governments. Insecurity and violent extremism, as we all know, thrives on the failures of governance, including in the security sector. The security sector in several fragile countries of the Sahel, they rightfully feel beleaguered by manpower shortages, poor training, lack of adequate equipment. And that's all fair. But the general consensus is that strengthening security institutions requires more than just training, requires more than just equipping armed forces and other security providers. Obviously, that's important. But what we need is effective management and accountability of the security sector is just as crucial for the provision of security and the creation of an environment that is conducive to socioeconomic growth. And this requires strengthening accountability mechanisms. For the, military, for local enforcement, as well as improving their work and living conditions. It also necessitates that the makeup of law enforcement agencies start to reflect the diversity in the communities where they serve, in terms of ethnicity, religion, and gender. Number three is that we need improving lives and livelihoods. It's nearly impossible to tackle the problem of violent extremism in the Sahel, especially in the peripheral areas of the Sahel, without governments filling the major gaps in security and service provision. To better compete with violent extremist groups, governments should step up efforts to protect communities and to address the debilitating shortages in food, water, healthcare, including in IDP camps. And number four, we have to focus less on changing ideology. Countering the narrative and propaganda of violent extremist groups is important. There's no doubt about it, but it's insufficient to address the key drivers of violent extremism. Ultimately, the general consensus is that counter narratives and counter messaging, can help undermine violent extremist use of scripture, of religious arguments, but they cannot counter the powerful narrative that portrays states as corrupt, abusive, and discriminatory, right? So, and finally, we need regional strategies and continental strategies here. And that brings us to the EU. The transnational nature of violent extremism and terrorism in Africa necessitates a unified and coordinated response. And this is where the African Union and the regional economic communities come in. Indeed, both the EU and its regional groupings, they have worked to develop frameworks and strategies for countering violent extremism. But both the EU and the RECs, they have struggled to gain traction in the area of countering violent extremism. ECOWAS has developed a strong regional counterterrorism strategy and plan of action with implementation instruments such as the ECOWAS Counterterrorism Coordination Unit. It has an arrest warrant, a blacklist of terrorist and criminal networks. It has even a counterterrorism training manual. But if operationalized and implemented at the national and regional level, that strategy has the potential to bolster cross-border cooperation. But the perennial challenge, however, has been for member states to master the political will to implement that strategy at all levels, including and especially the actions that call for the promotion of just, accountable, and inclusive state programs and institutions. As for the African Union, it has recognized the importance of developing comprehensive, counterterrorism plans of actions as early as the 1999, Algiers Convention. There is the 2004 protocol to that convention, which entered into force in 2014. So it's only fair to recognize, as the Institute for Security Studies put it, the impressive strides that the EU has made in developing a relatively comprehensive counterterrorism strategy, continentally, right? But the challenge for the EU, for the African Union, has been how to translate its counterterrorism framework into effective action and influence. And unfortunately, so far, the African Union has had little discernible effect on containing the growing threat of terrorism and insecurity. The African Union has struggled to align its policies and practices at the state and regional level. I mean, there has also been complications in terms of harmonization and cooperation with the RECs, right? The African security architecture envisages outsourcing of responsibilities to the different various sub-regional organizations. But such divisions of labor and responsibilities have not worked as well as hoped. The principle of subsidiarity remains ill-defined in terms of decision-making processes and implementation. There are also divergences in the norms and capabilities of the states, and that's a complicating factor, right? The EU policy implementation process is also hindered by the reluctance of states to embrace the sensitive but critical parts of the EU counterterrorism framework, namely those dealing with member states' human rights obligations in counterterrorism. Recently, the African Union signaled its desire to deploy 3,000 troops to the Sahel. And, some have welcomed that, but other experts, they have questioned whether, that's the best way for the African Union to deal with rising insecurity in the Sahel. One institute asked about, the African Standby Force. So besides the question of how to finance this force, where are you going to get the money? The question is, what can this force add to the number of military actors already in the Sahel? Also the emphasis on troops, deploying troops, as an ISS piece recently put it, reinforces the logic of a military solution, which has hitherto revealed its limitations. Doesn't mean that there has not to be a military aspect to it. Of course it does, but there are limits to it. So, it's therefore elsewhere that the EU should probably, the African Union should focus its efforts. And probably the African Union should start implementing its stabilization strategy for the Sahel. It should work, where it has comparative advantages. It can help the authorities in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, formulate national plans to resolve disputes over land and natural resources. We know that conflicts over land and natural resources help fuel violent extremist groups' expansion and other conflicts. The African Union could press the governments to curb the alleged armed forces abuses, and also to limit their reliance on vigilantes in fighting militants. So I think it's here where the African Union Sahel Plan can have an impact in a very crowded field of such plans. The African Union has the advantage of being able to work more closely with sub-regional blocs, with Sahel governments, with the G5. So just to sum up, I mean, the African Union, could win greater local buy-in for its proposals, but to do that, it has to focus, I think, more on areas where it can have influence and impact. And I think I'll just stop right here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anwar, for that. We're very grateful. So I would not try to summarize anything, but just to note that we have a number of discussants. We have Colonel Maman Sule, who is the Defense Attaché of Niger to Ethiopia and to the African Union. He's also the Dean of the Military Attaché Association in Addis Ababa. Previously, Colonel Sule was Director of External Relations for the Nigerian Armed Forces. We also have Mr. Aliu Bari. Mr. Bari is an officer working in the Office of President Pierre Buyoya, the African Union High Representative for Mali and Sahel. We would want them to give their comments before we open the floor for participants to also contribute to the discussion. So we'll go first to Colonel Sule, please.
Madam Chair, I understand that Colonel Sule has just had a problem with his connection. He is trying to reconnect. Perhaps we could go to Monsieur Barry.
Okay, that's fine. So Mr. Barry, please. Mr. Barry, are you here, please? Well, perhaps we can open the floor, and then when they are available, we'll give them the opportunity to make some remarks as well. Would that work, Sue?
I should imagine so. I do see Mr. Barry is online. He's on the call. So yes, I think he's coming in now.
Okay, all right. So we just give him a minute to come on. Mr. Barry, are you here, please? Okay, so maybe perhaps we can
Hello?
open the floor. Oh, he's here now.
Hello? Yeah. I say to give my presentation in French.
Can you come again, please, Mr. Barry? We are not getting you very well. Thank you.
I think he has connection problems, maybe.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Can you maybe switch off your camera and then see if the connection will be better, please?
Hello. Hello. You hear me?
No, it's very difficult.
Hello, hello. Hello.
So while Mr. Barry sorts out the connection issues, perhaps we can start the discussions.
I think
Dr.
so.
Bukar raised a number of issues that I think we can start the discussion while Monsieur Barry sorts out the connection issues.
Hello.
So I think, can you perhaps mute
Hello.
Monsieur Barry while we sort out the connections, and then we can start the general discussions. Dr. Bukar's raised a number of issues, which I'll just put across, and then we can have a general discussion while we sort out Mr. Barry's connection. Now, he spoke about different issues like the opportunities that are created by exclusive policies by governments in the region, for which reason a lot of these groups are flourishing in the Sahel, communal clashes, vigilantes, and militias. These
Okay.
are all issues that influence the dynamics of the conflict. He also spoke about the fact that due to these issues, we need to rethink the existing assumptions and context, and perhaps more importantly, reevaluate the intervention approaches that have been adopted in the Sahel. He spoke about some of the drivers of the conflict, such as the behavior of states and the security institutions, which are ill-equipped to address some
Hello.
of these threats and the challenges in the Sahel, group-based marginalization, which provide grounds for recruitment of individuals. He spoke about deepened governance gaps that present themselves, deepened governance gaps, for which reason these groups are able to present themselves as providers
Hello.
in the Sahel. And now these groups are able to inspire wide
Can
appeal
you?
from individuals and groups in the Sahel. They provide seeds for plantation, they build wells, they provide some running water, and then they also even run slaughterhouses, which are all issues that are very good for the livelihoods of people in the Sahel. He also indicated that it's essential that we have an in-depth understanding of violent movements, what their appeals are, identify what those actors are, and those actors which are responsible for violent extremism and violent behavior, not neglecting the behaviors of governments in the Sahel, which make it extremely conducive for groups to flourish. Now he went to talk about regional organizations, the AU and the REX, and how they have struggled to gain traction and relevance in the Sahel. It's essential that the AU translates all the frameworks, even ECOWAS, they translate all the good frameworks that they have developed into concrete actions which matter, because you can have frameworks, you can have policy documents, you can have norms, but if you don't translate these into actions, then these would not be relevant. And so it's essential that we look at these norms and see how these could be translated. The AU Sahel Plan, the ECOWAS counterterrorism strategy, these are all issues or norms and frameworks that we need to ensure would work. And so without taking much time, I would like to open the floor for questions, contributions. We'll still try and get Mr. Barry on the line when he's able to sort out the connection. So we'll open the floor for comments, please. The floor is open, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Madam Chair, I see that Colonel Suli is now on the call.
Okay, so if Colonel Sule is here, then Colonel Sule, please, the floor is yours. Colonel Sule is the defense attaché of Niger to Ethiopia and to the African Union. He's also the dean of the Military Attaché Association, Addis Ababa. So Colonel Sule, do you hear us, please? Oh, yes, I see him. Colonel Sule, we see you. Please proceed with your intervention. Colonel Sule, I think you are on mute. So if you could please unmute yourself. Maybe we can try Mr. Barry again. I see that he's online now, so maybe his connection might be better. Monsieur Barry? Colonel Sule, are you here? Are you here with us? We see you, but we just don't hear you.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, we hear you now. Yes, Colonel Sule.
Okay. Good morning, distinguished participants.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us, please.
Okay. It was not easy, but technology right now is some kind of. It was not easy for me to join you.
We understand.
Okay,
Thanks for making the effort.
All right. Thank you very much for inviting us. So as you said, I'm the Senior Colonel Maman Souley. I'm the Defense Attaché of Niger Embassy. And my ambassador Walvo invited to this seminar, but due to last constraint, he asked me to come on his behalf. So I'm here to. So what I will say today is not reflect the point of view of my ambassador. It's not only reflect the point of view of my country. It's a personal point of view, your personal analysis. I want this to be clear first.
This is noted. Thank you.
Hello? Hello, Nana?
Hello, Colonel. We hear you. We hear you. We note that what you are going to talk about reflects your own personal opinion. So we get it. Thank you very much.
Hello? Hello? Nana?
Yes, Colonel. We are here. We hear you very well.
Okay, Nana? Nana?
We, Colonel. We are here. We hear you.
Okay. Can I give my presentation or?
Okay. Monsieur Barry. Yes, please.
Okay.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Technology
No
issues.
problem. No problem. Thank you so much. My name is Barry Aliou. I'm senior political affairs in Sahel. For this presentation, if you grade, I want to give my presentation in French. You understand me?
Yes, we do. Let me just clarify with Sue whether we would have somebody who would be able to interpret what you present afterwards. Sue, what do you think?
Madam Chair, as far as I understand, we had not made the provision for interpretation. So if possible, is it possible to prevail upon Monsieur Barry to make his presentation in English with sincerest apologies?
Oh, okay.
Monsieur Barry, unfortunately,
yeah.
we haven't made provision for an interpreter. So would be most grateful if you could try
Okay.
and present in English. We sincerely apologize for that. We'll take that into consideration at the next meeting.
I'm going to try in English now.
Merci.
But I'm sorry for that because my English is not good for this presentation.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm talking about talking behalf of President Buyoya to give our presentation on Sahel mandate in the Mali and the Sahel countries. We are in Mali from 2012, right? Our mandate is focused on three pillars. The first prayer is to help the government, the Malian government, to resolve the political causes, pour résoudre les problèmes politiques. I think the second point is to monitor the political issues in Mali and the Sahel regions. Sometime we lead the mission to it's very difficult for me to continue only in English. I'm good only in French. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You were doing very well, Mr. Barry. So you were on the third point. Actually.
Yeah. In French, yeah. In English, all is very difficult for me. Only in English. That is the problem. Yeah. Okay. Hello?
Monsieur
Yeah,
Barry,
yeah,
yes, please.
yeah. I said that I can continue in French.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me just talk to Sue and see what can be done. Sue, so I think Monsieur Barry is having difficulties continuing in English.
Only, yeah.
Madam Chair, if Monsieur Barry is agreeable, one of my colleagues is able to type into the chat an English interpretation. My colleague is not a translator, so please, we would apologize if there are any inaccuracies. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
We can type the English interpretation into the chat.
Okay.
You can continue in French.
Yeah.
Yes, so Monsieur Barry, you can continue in French, please.
Okay.
And
For all other participants, yes, we'll try and type what he's saying in English in the chat box.
Okay.
So can
D'accord.
refer to it. Thank
Ok. Merci beaucoup. Je suis désolé pour ce contretemps majeur parce qu'on ne savait pas qu'il fallait absolument parler tout en anglais. Bon, ok. Pour aller un peu plus vite, donc nous sommes au Mali depuis 2012. Il faut dire que la Sahel a été l'une des premières institutions régionales à être déployée au Mali en 2012 après la crise. Donc, on avait sous la troupe le président Bouyoya avait la mission d'aider le gouvernement malien à trouver la solution à la crise malienne. Et à ce titre, il y avait beaucoup de troupes. Il y avait aussi des composantes civiles, des composantes de droits de l'homme pour l'accompagner dans la mise en œuvre de la feuille de route qui lui avait été confiée. Mais dans ce processus, il y a eu de l'évolution parce que le Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies avait lors de sa 14e session ordinaire avait contribué à ce qu'on puisse mettre une mission de maintien de paix au Mali. C'est ainsi qu'il y a eu la reconversion, qu'il y a eu MISMA d'abord au départ, après il y a eu la Sahel, il y a eu la MINUSMA plus tard. Maintenant, après, donc le Conseil de paix et sécurité de l'Union africaine a décidé d'avoir une présence plus robuste de l'Union africaine au Mali en raison des défis politiques et sécuritaires majeurs à l'époque. Donc, nous sommes là avec son mandat depuis 2013. Alors, mais qu'est-ce que nous faisons pratiquement? Il faut dire que la Sahel, c'est une mission essentiellement politique. C'est une mission essentiellement politique qui repose sur 4 piliers majeurs. Le premier pilier, c'est le pilier politique. Le deuxième pilier, c'est le pilier sécurité. Le troisième pilier, c'est droits de l'homme et les actions humanitaires. Et le quatrième pilier, c'est le développement. Concernant le mandat relatif au volet politique, notre mandat est plus précisément consiste à accompagner et à soutenir l'État malien dans la mise en œuvre de l'accord de paix qui a été signé en Alger. Et donc, dans ce cadre-là, nous avons fait beaucoup d'activités. Nous avons délivré beaucoup d'activités. On est co-président, par exemple, du sous-comité politique et institutionnel qui a des rubriques de réformer, d'accompagner l'État malien dans les réformes institutionnelles, politiques et, comme on appelle, électorales. Donc, on veille à ce que la mise en œuvre de l'accord soit vraiment appliquée à la lettre pour pouvoir résoudre le problème de la crise malienne. Et donc par exemple, sur ce point-là, on accompagne le président Bouyoya, ancien président qui a beaucoup d'expérience dans la prévention et la résolution des conflits, conseil, il fait des bons offices pour rapprocher les points de vue entre les partis politiques, entre les acteurs politiques qui ont souvent des difficultés pour s'entendre dans la mise en œuvre de l'accord de paix qui est l'instrument politique international de la médiation internationale. Dans ce cadre-là, plus précisément, nous avons le président Bouyoya, dans son mandat investi par le président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, a par exemple contribué beaucoup à l'organisation de l'élection présidentielle de 2013, de l'élection présidentielle de 2018, qui était très difficile à organiser pour un pays qui est dans une qu'on appelle crise importante. Par exemple, l'année dernière, il y avait une grande qu'on appelle crise au Mali, parce que tout simplement l'opposition et les différents acteurs politiques ne voulaient plus du Premier ministre Soumaïla Boubé Maïga, et donc ça a failli remettre en cause la mise en œuvre de l'accord, ça a failli créer d'autres problèmes, mais par les bons offices du président Bouyoya, de la MINUSMA, de la CEDEAO, ils ont réussi à fédérer les points de vue et à aller et à former un gouvernement pour accompagner l'État malien. Donc, il y a eu un accord politique qu'on appelle ici un accord politique de gouvernance qui a été signé en 2019, qui a permis d'avoir un nouveau Premier ministre. Donc, ça, c'est sur le volet politique, mais ce qu'il faut dire aussi en plus de cela, quand je reprends la situation maintenant, le rôle de l'Union africaine au Mali et au Sahel est plus qu'important parce que l'imam Mahmoud Diko, avec beaucoup d'autres qu'on appelle acteurs qui remettent en cause la mauvaise gouvernance politique et sécurité du président Ibeka, ont demandé le départ du président, sa démission. Et donc, il a fallu que l'Union africaine, que le président Bouya, dans sa sagesse habituelle, avec ses pairs de la MINUSMA et de la CEDEAO, engage la médiation pour pouvoir apaiser les tensions. Donc, il mène des discussions et des médiations discrètes pour pouvoir aider la stabilisation du pays au plan politique, au plan sécuritaire et pour la mise en œuvre de l'accord de paix. Un autre point, toujours sur le volet politique, ce qu'il faut dire, c'est que vous savez, ici au Mali, il y a tellement d'acteurs internationaux qui s'investissent pour résoudre les crises maliennes, alors que nous avons une certaine approche africaine. Et donc, le plus souvent dans cette médiation, dans ces rencontres entre les différents acteurs, l'Union africaine la voix du président Bouya est très écoutée pour pouvoir donner son expérience dans la résolution des conflits et avoir une politique un peu plus apaisée. Maintenant, dans la sous-région, sur le volet politique, il faut dire que on fait souvent des missions d'information, comme le président Bouya l'a fait en 2014-15 au Burkina Faso, quand le président Blaise Compaoré avait été contesté. Il est parti, il a fait des médiations entre bons offices et finalement, ils sont parvenus plus ou moins à gérer la situation sans qu'il y ait énormément de dégâts. À cette époque aussi, la Sahel, donc c'est la mission de l'Union africaine au Mali et au Sahel, avait dépêché, avait déployé des staffs qu'on appelle au Burkina Faso pour pouvoir day to day rapporter sur la situation au président Bouya et à la Commission de l'Union africaine pour pouvoir apporter des solutions politiques à la crise. Ça a été le même cas au Niger, quand l'opposant Hama Amadou avait été semble-t-il accusé de trafic de bébés. Le président Bouya a participé aux négociations pour que la justice fasse son travail pour accompagner l'État nigérien dans la gestion de la crise. On a fait autant dans d'autres pays de la sous-région et même en ce moment-là, il mène des discussions au niveau politique pour l'élection présidentielle et législative à venir au Niger, parce que la situation aussi est extrêmement difficile là-bas en ce moment. Donc ça, c'est vraiment des choses, c'est vraiment d'actions de médiation, de prévention, de discussion politique que nous menons parce qu'on n'a pas les moyens financiers comme l'aménagement, sinon comme le PNUD. Le plus souvent, nos différentes actions ne se voient pas parce qu'elles ne sont pas matérielles, mais elles sont plutôt politiques. Par exemple, quand je reprends le cas du Mali, on vient d'organiser, et là, le président Bouya et ses pairs ont beaucoup contribué à l'organisation du dialogue national inclusif. C'était quelque chose qui était demandé dans l'accord de paix, qui était demandé par beaucoup de Maliens, j'allais dire, et beaucoup d'acteurs ne voulaient pas participer à ce dialogue national inclusif. Donc, il a pu convaincre le président Amadou Toumani Touré, il a pu convaincre le président, ils ont pu convaincre le président Alpha Konaré, ils ont pu convaincre beaucoup d'acteurs de participer à ce dialogue national inclusif qui a été une réussite, même si le chef de file de l'opposition, M. Soumaïla Cissé, n'a pas pu participer à cette élection, à ce dialogue, mais ça a été une réussite dans ce cadre-là. Maintenant, sur le volet sécuritaire, pour faire un peu court, il faut dire que la Sahel, à travers son Excellence le président Bouya, mène aussi beaucoup d'activités. Par exemple, au Mali, nous suivons la mise en œuvre de l'accord dans son volet DDR. Donc, dans son volet DDR, même s'il y a eu des progrès, même si aujourd'hui le DDR pose beaucoup de problèmes parce que les quelques avancées qu'on a eues à travers les bons offices de l'aménagement du président Bouya et de la CEDEAO, qui ont réussi à avoir 1180 éléments déployés dans le nord du Mali dans le cadre des unités reconstituées de forces armées maliennes, notamment à Gao, à Kidal, à Menaka, à Tombouctou. Ça a été un succès. Au début, il y a eu ce redéploiement de l'armée constituée. Il y a eu, à travers les bons offices, donc du président Bouya, de la MINUSMA et de quelques acteurs primordiaux, de quelques acteurs importants. Il y a eu le retour timide de l'armée et de la présence de l'État dans la région qui était occupée pendant longtemps, qui est la région de Kidal. Aujourd'hui, il y a une présence de l'État. Donc tout ça, c'est pour dire que le travail que l'Union africaine, je ne fais pas l'avocat du diable, peut-être qu'on me dira qu'on travaille là-dessus, c'est pourquoi j'en parle, mais ce sont des réalités. L'armée, les bons offices permettent vraiment à décanter la situation et aller de l'avant, même si les progrès ne sont pas très visibles. Sur le plan sécuritaire aussi, ce qu'il faut dire, c'est que nous avons, par exemple, une seconde. Donc, sur le plan sécuritaire, par exemple, nous avons initié ce qu'on appelle le processus de Nouakchott. Le processus de Nouakchott, qui est un instrument de coopération sécuritaire continentale, donc qui permet aux États membres de l'espace G5 Sahel d'échanger d'informations sur les renseignements. Donc, ça a été quelque chose qui a été bien salué dans l'espace de G5 Sahel et qui a été soutenu fortement par la Commission de l'Union africaine. À ce titre, nous avons, sous le leadership du président Bouya, donc, et de ses pairs, il y a eu des colloques régionaux qui ont permis au pays des G5 Sahel d'avoir une politique nationale de lutte contre l'extrémisme violent et la radicalisation. Donc, c'est un travail qui se met en place depuis 2016. Donc, c'est un instrument politique et ce qui permet aux États de partager ces renseignements et de voir comment est-ce qu'il faut faire pour lutter contre le terrorisme et puis de prévenir l'extrémisme violent. Donc, ça, c'est quelque chose qu'on fait, mais il y a aussi les stratégies Sahel qu'on est en train de mettre en place, mais c'est un état de projet, mais ça avance bien. Donc, en matière d'aider, pour faire un petit retour, nous avons aussi organisé des rencontres de partage et d'expérience en matière de DDR, parce que ici au Mali, dans le cadre du DDR, les gens ne connaissent pas assez beaucoup, ça n'avance pas beaucoup. Il y a eu cette initiative. On a fait venir des gens qui ont de l'expertise de la Sierra Leone, du Burkina Faso, pour accompagner, pour partager leur expérience avec l'État malien, avec ceux-là qui s'occupent du DDR. Et donc, ça a été quelque chose qui a été vraiment apprécié. Sur le plan, toujours sur le plan sécuritaire, ce qu'il faut dire, c'est que il y a eu aussi un atelier continental, je dirais continental, que nous avions organisé ici en 2020, sur les conflits locaux, qui a été soutenu par le commissaire Chergui, l'ambassadeur Fred qui était venu. Donc il y a beaucoup d'acteurs de politique qui sont venus d'un peu partout du continent africain pour parler des conflits communautaires, parce que nous avons constaté qu'il n'y avait pas d'action concrète au niveau continental par rapport aux conflits communautaires. Donc nous suivons ça et ça a permis aux uns et aux autres de comprendre la dynamique des conflits locaux. Voilà, sur le plan sécuritaire, sur le plan politique, ce que nous faisons. Maintenant, ce qu'il faut dire, c'est que nous avons des grandes contraintes. On a beaucoup de contraintes, vu que la Sahel couvre une zone plus large qui est le Niger, le Mali, le Burkina Faso, le Sénégal, la Mauritanie, la Côte d'Ivoire, le Niger et le Tchad. On couvre tout cela. Mais c'est très difficile d'avoir d'impact visible compte tenu de, comme disait M. Noir tout à l'heure dans sa présentation, donc c'est un conflit complexe et très global et on n'a pas suffisamment de moyens financiers pour avancer beaucoup dans certains projets. Aussi, ce qu'il faut dire, c'est que on a besoin d'avoir de la présence de nos staffs, par exemple au Burkina Faso, en Mauritanie et au Niger pour pouvoir physiquement suivre la situation et rendre compte régulièrement, mais on n'a pas les moyens d'avoir de présence là-bas. Et l'autre point faible qu'on a, parce qu'on fait beaucoup la médiation, on fait beaucoup la diplomatie préventive dans ces conflits-là et dans la situation politique, c'est qu'on a besoin de renforcer nos capacités à médiation. Nos capacités à médiation pour pouvoir être plus efficace, mais aussi on a besoin de monde pour pouvoir aider nos partenaires locaux à avoir des capacités dans la prévention et la résolution de ces conflits. Je pense que si on réussit ces différents points, si on réussit à relever ces différents points-là, et on aura plus d'impact dans d'autres domaines que uniquement dans la médiation ou dans les autres volets. Maintenant, sur le volet droits de l'homme, on suit, donc on fait le monitoring des droits de l'homme ici au Mali et dans les régions. Sur le domaine développement, en dernier lieu, c'est que nous avons des initiatives de soutien aux couches les plus vulnérables. Nous avons développé un projet qu'on appelle IREYE, c'est-à-dire nous sommes au retour pour soutenir les femmes IDPs qui sont vulnérables et les donner d'activités génératrices de revenus. On a organisé on a implémenté ces projets à Ségou, à Menaka et à Gao. Voilà, Nana, ce que je pouvais dire. J'espère que les uns et les autres ont compris un peu ce que je dis en français. Sur ce, je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Barry, for that. Sue indicated that one of their colleagues would translate what you said, so we'll hold on for that.
Okay.
I believe Herve is online.
Sue. Herve?
Yeah.
Okay. We are hearing you, please. If you could please summarize what Monsieur Barry just discussed.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Barry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So I will try to briefly recap.
Your voice, please.
What is it?
Can you hear me?
Me?
Excellent.
Good.
Yes, Harvey, continue now.
Yes, I will try to sum up what Mr. Barry has just said. Apparently, the Sahel, the AU mission in the Sahel, it's mainly political, and there have been active in the field of mediation. For instance, they contributed to easing the situation in Mali, currently with the, the political situation given to the Imam Mahmoud Diko and other political actors, trying to push for the resignation of the president. So they contributed to, have a discussion and a mediation, a kind of good office with, this actor. They also part into the national inclusive dialogue back to 2017. They contributed to easing the situation in Niger with the legislative elections, also back to 2016, and they intervene in the conflict in Burkina Faso. That's the field of mediation and good office. In the field of security, Mr. Barry said that the Sahel has been contributed to the DDR process. They work to, and they contribute to redeployment of state services and what we call the reconstituted armed forces. This is a mix of official armed forces and the armed groups. So they contributed to the redeployment of the state services and the armed forces in northern Mali back to February 2020. He also mentioned that the Sahel is contributing to implementing the Nouakchott process in the field of security. And recently, the Sahel has held a workshop on local conflicts and natural resources in the Sahel region. This was to help the government in the regions and in Mali, the different actors to diagnose the dynamics of the conflict and propose a way out of the conflict. And last point, Mr. Barry said that the Sahel is working to support vulnerable communities, mainly women in Menaka, Timbuktu, in northern Mali. So basically, he also mentioned that Sahel is doing a lot, but the reason is, it's about good office, and very often those actions and those results are not visible. Yeah, he also mentioned the necessity to reinforce the mission capacity in order to support local partners in the region. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eve, for that summary.
Nana.
Yes, Mr. Barry.
Miss Mama, Madam Nana, please let me add 2 points in this presentation. Let me say that our mission is essentially political.
Mm-hmm.
In Mali, our first point is to contribute to implement peace agreement in Mali.
Okay.
That is the big point for us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. This is very well noted. We still have Colonel Sule on the line. He was one of the discussants billed to speak. Monsieur Sule, are you still here, please?
Hello. Did
Yes,
you hear me?
Yes, we hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I just get the line, so I didn't get what my predecessor said before. So let me try to bring something on this discussion and to give you a quick overview on what I think the Sahel crisis is. You know, talking about this the Sahel region conflict, I will focus on what I know better. My country, Niger, of course. And allow me to make a small description of the Sahel region we are talking about, so that we'll see why it's so known.
Colonel Sule, we are not hearing you anymore. Colonel Sule, do you hear us, please? Sincere apologies, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for the issues with technology. We'll try and still continue the meeting nonetheless. I just want to acknowledge the presence of Ambassador Hadija Mustafa, who is the advisor to His Excellency Musa Faki. She's on here with us. Your Excellency Hadija Mustafa, would you like to say something, please? Okay, so I think we should open the floor. I'm sure there are a number of us who would like to make some interventions. Dr. Anwar spoke about the underlying causes of the crisis, the various intervention mechanisms by AU and other RECs, some of the successes, what they are doing, and the challenges that they are facing. Thank you, Ambassador Hadija. We see that you say you're happy to listen. Thank you for joining us. So these are the issues that we've been discussing. Monsieur Barry has also spoken about the Sahel mission, the AU mission to the Sahel, what its mandate principally has been, which is political in nature. But then it has three key underlying pillars, which are security, supporting the political processes, mediation, and human rights. So these are the issues that we've been discussing. The Sahel region is a very challenging issue. I think a number of us have thoughts, issues around it. So we'll open the floor. If there are any questions, if there are any comments, if there's anything that you feel the AU or other RECs need to do to resolve or contribute to resolving the crisis in the Sahel, we'll be happy to hear it, because obviously we want something that concrete actions that will support the work that all these actors are doing in the region. So we've opened the floor for for comments. I see that Hervé has his hand up. He would like to pose some two main questions. So Hervé, if your mic is working now, please go ahead and ask your questions. Otherwise, you may type the questions in the chat box. For those of us who are unable to, because of technology, to use the microphones or due to connection issues, you can please type in your messages or your questions in the chat box and we'll read them out to the main speakers for their thoughts and contributions. Please let me just re-emphasize that we are still operating with Chatham House rules. So please do not attribute. You can use the comments and thoughts that you hear here, but please do not attribute them to particular individuals or organizations.
Hello, Nana?
Ebe, yes, Ebe, are you here?
Nana?
Yes, I'm here. So if you can hear me, so hello?
Yes, Ebe, we hear you.
Good, perfect. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Professor Bukars for his excellent keynote speech. Would like to pose two main questions. First one relates to vigilante groups. As he mentioned, the inability of the state in the region to provide security has led to the emergence of a number of vigilante groups. So my question is, how to turn the security that vigilante provide into an inclusive one? If, for instance, in the short term, the government in the region are unable to get rid of those groups. Because after all, vigilante groups provide security, even if it's not inclusive. That's first point. Second point, in Sahel, we have a lot of initiatives. We have a lot of actors. Some of them are powerful. So my question is how the AU could, let's say, navigate into this, in this crisis, given that we have a lot of actors. Obviously, if the subsidiarity principle was working, it would be easy for the EU to rely on it and propose a solution to the conflict. So how the EU can deal with the plurality of actors and try to propose a solution to the conflict. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. Is there any other question before Professor Bukars come in? Okay, Anwar, please, the floor is yours. Eva is asking two questions: how we could integrate vigilante groups who obviously are providing some key services in the Sahel region. They are a force for good, sometimes for evil. In the short term, are there ways in which we can involve them proactively to support peace process in the Sahel? And the other question that he's asking is around the multiplicity of actors in the Sahel and how the AU could harness all these actors to support the Sahel peace processes.
Sure. For the first question on vigilantes, I mean that's an excellent question. I mean, community-based armed groups, and some prefer to use this term than vigilantes. They can play a constructive role right, in helping provide security to their local communities. And we have seen that in some fragile environments, they are deputized by the state to provide security. So when they act in concert with security actors, they can enhance partnerships between state actors and communities, and hence they can contribute to effective community policing. The challenge and the problem that we are seeing, in Burkina and elsewhere, is when these community-based armed groups, they supplant the security forces on the ground. So the one thing is that the state risks losing more legitimacy, more credibility with local communities. Another thing is that some of these community-based groups, their recruitment patterns is problematic, because they recruit from one community. So when it allies with the state against another community, say the Fulanis, because that's where the issue here, that's where you create problems, because now you have a state that is allied with an ethnic, communitarian based armed group, that is not always trying to protect the community, but sometimes it goes into revenge, etc., etc. So the problem is, how do you manage it? And you're absolutely right. If not properly managed, community-based armed groups can further exacerbate the violence. If you can manage them properly, knowing that in these fragile environments, the state does not have the capability as of yet, it's still working on that, then community-based armed groups can play a role. The issue here is that they need to be properly managed to make sure that they don't exacerbate, these ethnic problems that we are seeing in Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria, and elsewhere. For the second question, you're right. We're operating in a very crowded security place. There are tons of security actors there. There is not coherence, unfortunately. There is duplication of efforts. And that's why, in my presentation, I brought the recent initiative of the African Union to deploy, 3,000 troops. And I said the issue is not just how you finance this force. That's why the EU is talking about 6 months. That's not sustainable. But even 6 months, what can you accomplish? But the issue is that that's not as my fellow presenter, stated. That's not the forte of the EU at this stage. Its forte is more political, and the presenter laid out how the EU, has done pretty well to negotiate, sometimes to mediate, because they know the local actors better. They may have more credibility on the ground than, say, other actors. We have seen the views of Barrakan, for example. It's very controversial. So the EU can play a role, to supplement the efforts of other actors, whether it's the French, whether it's regional actors. So maybe focus more on the political aspect. The EU can try to convince, or at least to make the point to some of these countries and some of these actors, that the behavior of the security forces, for example, is problematic. To look at the main drivers of conflict besides just a security approach, because unfortunately much of the focus, whether it's the international actors or otherwise, has been driven by or has been viewed or seen from a counterterrorism lens. So more security, more emphasis on security at the expense of development. So the EU can try to bring more coherence to these initiatives, right? So I think that's where the EU can play a role. It has a strategy. You know, the issue now is how do you implement it? Over.
Thank you very much for that. Any other questions, please, or comments?
Nana?
Yes. Is it Monsieur Barry?
No. Yeah. Let me give the comment on this presentation from
Okay.
Professor Noir. In French, I think that in the Sahel regions, we have another problem in the conflict in the conflict between the community. You know, je pense que y a un problème de conflit identitaire. Les problèmes de conflit identitaire, on n'en fait pas beaucoup cas. Or, si on voit le conflit entre Dogon et Peul à Mopti dans le Mali, c'est vrai ce que le professeur Anouar dit, il y a beaucoup de compétition pour l'accès aux ressources naturelles, il y a beaucoup de compétition pour le contrôle des territoires, ça c'est bien, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec lui. Mais il y a un problème qui n'est pas étudié, il n'y a pas de documentation là-dessus. Les problèmes identitaires, de revendication identitaire. Par exemple, à Mopti, on dit la région, on dit le pays Dogon. Pour les Dogons, on dit le Massina pour les Peuls. Or, c'est la même région, c'est le même endroit. Les autres sont musulmans, les autres sont chrétiens. Les autres sont des éleveurs, les autres sont des agriculteurs. Il y a des revendications identitaires très fortes et qui ne sont pas malheureusement présentées, étudiées par les instituts de recherche, par les organisations internationales. Or, au Rwanda, pendant très longtemps, on a dit que le conflit communautaire entre Hutu et Tutsi, c'est un problème de terre, land ou conflict. Et après, on a vu avec le génocide rwandais qu'il y a des revendications identitaires très fortes derrière. La même chose en Centrafrique. Pendant longtemps, ils ont dit non, entre les Balaka et les Seleka, c'est un conflit pour gérer les terres entre les éleveurs et les agriculteurs. Je suis d'accord avec ça, mais on a vu avec le temps, c'est devenu un conflit entre musulmans et non-musulmans. Donc moi, si je peux me permettre, ma recommandation ou ma proposition, que l'Union africaine ou les organisations régionales ou les instituts de recherche focus sur les conflits identitaires, sur les conflits identitaires qui sont exploités par les terroristes. Merci à vous.
Thank you very much for that. Is Eva here? Otherwise, I'll just make an effort. I think one of the things that Monsieur Barry is saying is that we need to look at identity conflict, which is obviously prevalent in Mali as well as several countries in East Africa. If you look at DR Congo, if you look at Central Africa, Republic, the Selekas, which people said were between Muslims and Christians, and that identity issues are one of the underlying causes of conflict in the region. And this creates a loophole for actors to come in and cause all kinds of problems. And so what he's saying is that regional organizations such as the AU needs to look at identity conflicts and see what it can do within that framework, beyond the political mandates that they have. So I just attempted a translation. My French is not great, but any other questions or comments? The floor. We still have a few more minutes to go. We appreciate the fact that you are still with us in spite of the technological challenges that we've been having the last hour or so. But I think the meeting is progressing quite well. We've listened to Dr. Bukhar's presentation. We've been able to listen to the presentation of Monsieur Barry, as well as some aspect of Colonel Sule's presentation. So I think it's progressing quite well. So the floor is still open for contributions and comments.
Hello, this is Paul Melly here from Chatham House in London.
Oh, hello, Paul. You're welcome.
Hi. I have a question, particularly for Mr. Barry, about we've seen some very worrying reports in the last few days and weeks about really very serious human rights violations, either confirmed as being committed by the armed forces of Mali and Niger, or else alleged to have been committed. There was just a few days ago a report of a massacre that took place in central Mali, a village of Peul villagers, where all the reports say that armed men in uniform carried out the killings. There have also been claims that the Niger army has been accused of some serious abuses. So I just wanted to ask, is the African Union mission in Mali and the Sahel, has it been working with the leaderships of the military forces to try and work out how to counter this risk of human rights problems and abuses? We know obviously that often the soldiers are in positions of great danger, and they themselves have been the target of very violent attacks, and so feelings are strong on all sides. But I just wondered if this is an area that the African Union mission has been working on, and whether, because you're the African Union rather than the European Union, the UN, the French, or some other outside body, whether that gives you greater legitimacy to engage on these issues.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. Let me give my response in French, okay? Oui, en effet, comme j'ai dit au début, la Sahel, la mission de l'Union africaine pour le Mali et le Niger et le Sahel, c'est une mission essentiellement politique. On fait beaucoup de médiation et de prévention, d'accompagnement des États. Sur le rapport de droits de l'homme, qui est le rapport de la MINUSMA, oui, en effet, le président Bouya, dans son mandat, a également contribué à sensibiliser les autorités à tous les niveaux sur notre attachement au principe de non-assimilation des terroristes djihadistes aux populations civiles. C'est vraiment un message qui ne cesse de délivrer quand on va à Mopti, quand on va à Gao, ou quand il y a des rencontres ici à Bamako. Il ne cesse de dire lutter contre le terrorisme, oui, mais pas les assimiler à la population. Et je crois que cela aussi est partagé beaucoup par le gouvernement. Ils font des efforts dans ce sens-là, mais malheureusement, nous pensons que ce que dit le rapport, est vrai. Il y a beaucoup d'exactions, il y a beaucoup des exactions qui sont commises contre les civils, Dogon, Peul ou autres. Il y a des règlements de compte qui se font. Il y a des règlements de compte qui se font le plus souvent dans ces villages. Et c'est ce que je disais tout à l'heure par rapport à la présentation de Messa Noir. C'est que les milices, quand on prend les milices Dogon par exemple, ils ont dans leur doctrine des revendications identitaires. Donc, ils s'assimilent aux militaires, ils font les tenues tout le monde le sait. Les Peuls aussi font la même chose, ils s'assimilent aux terroristes. Donc, chacun tue. Et dans ce rapport et dans ce contexte-là, c'est vrai que l'armée n'est pas facilement gérable dans ce contexte-là. C'est un sujet très politique et très sensible, donc je préfère m'arrêter là. Merci.
Okay, so I think Hervé has answered, has helped us to translate it. Barry indicated that in response to Paul's question about the human rights abuses in the Sahel. Now, Barry is saying that, well, the Sahel is a political mission, first of all. So what they've been doing is to sensitize, work closely with the government of Mali to ensure that while they fight against violent extremism and terrorism, that they do not commit abuses against civilians. So that's the best they can do under the circumstances. It's not enough, but it's all they can do is impress upon the government to be mindful of the abuses that are committed. But he also indicated that a lot of these abuses are also committed by other groups for which the AU may not have much of an influence. So it's a difficult fight in the Sahel that all are battling. Any other question or comments? So there's a question that's been asked on the side, perhaps for Anwar to help us with. A coalition on the Sahel, which is a new initiative apparently driven by France. As what can the AU do in relation to such a coalition? I think you already mentioned that there are so many different actors in the Sahel region, all trying to have an influence either for good or not so good. Now, this is a new initiative. Is there something that AU can do in amidst this multiplicity of actors?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, and this is where the EU can contribute to try to bring some coherence to it. Yes, the International Coalition for the Sahel that was launched during the January summit, in Pau, France, by the heads of states of France, Burkina, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, and Chad. And the UN Secretary General obviously was there, the President of the European Council, the chairperson of the African Union Commission was there as well. So, I mean, if all efforts are united under this new initiative, then all the best here, because we do need a more collective, we do need a more inclusive response to the Sahel crisis. And what has been done so far is obviously not working. Militarily, it's not working. Development-wise, not much to see, and there is much left to be desired. So there is an urgency to act, and there is an urgency to develop a stronger, more inclusive response in this case. So what's the weight of the EU in this international coalition? I mean, it's still, we still don't know, but the fact that the chairperson was there, the fact that all the G5 countries obviously are there. So there is some room, as we heard from our friend Barry, I mean, to make the case of, I mean, here is really what's driving the conflict, and the EU, you know, probably has a better understanding than say its international actors. And this coalition, you know, is focusing on several pillars. The first one is, you know, fight the bad guys, the violent extremists. Number two, build the capacities of the armed forces of the states. Three, support the return of the state into the territories, like what Mauritania has successfully done, and then to assist in development. But again, you know, these are not new pillars. The challenge is whether this international coalition can coalesce, you know, all its efforts, and that's remain to be seen. I mean, hopefully the EU can play a role in there politically, but you know, but we still have to wait and see, I think. Over.
Thanks so much for that. There's one last question, still for you, Dr. Bukar, by Heve, who is asking a question about local institutions. Is there, he's asking, given that the conflict is imminently rural, as has been mentioned by a lot of speakers, does it say anything about the failure of existing local institutions?
Let's see whether I am muted. No.
We hear you.
Okay. Well, you know, I mean, there is a failure at the national level, and there is some failure at the local level. So one of the challenges, I think, is how do you bring this national, you know, local engagement? If you talk about, you know, violent extremism, and I know there are other problems that the Sahel is confronted with, and they feed into each other. I mean, national local engagement is key here. So, you know, I mean, the city administrators, whether it's municipal level practitioners or local authorities, the assumption is that they are generally more socio-culturally attuned to their community's attributes and dynamics.
Yeah.
So this makes them better positioned, at least in theory, to reach these conflict-affected communities and to facilitate the interactions between and among, you know, communities, security actors, and international development actors as well. So yes, I mean, local authorities, you know, can play, and they have an important role to play in helping design and implement all these multi-stakeholder approaches that we have been talking about. Because you don't want something that is, you know, designed, say, in PAO, I mean, the last summit, and, you know, imposed on these countries. What you need is local input there. And this is where local authorities can play a role, right? And we have seen some good cases there, you know, in the Sahel as well, or in North Africa. Tunisia is a good case in point. Kenya is another case in point if you look at East Africa. So local authorities, unfortunately, local authorities and civil society organizations, they play only marginal roles in national security issues. They are rarely engaged in the development of plans and strategies to prevent and counter violent extremism. So, you know, this creates problems because it hampers government's stated goal of expanding community-oriented approaches to security problems at the local level. So I'm not sure that they are more of the problem. In Mali, we have seen that with decentralization, there were some issues there, corruption, etc. But nonetheless, the issue is that they are not engaged. They play only marginal role, especially when it comes to national security issues. So, and that's hampering state efforts to tackle, these enablers of insecurity. Over.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Bukar. I'm very grateful. I think one of the key takeaways of this meeting is that the Sahel is still a very challenging situation. There are so many actors that are doing different things. The AU's contribution to the Sahel, while it is commended, there's still a lot that needs to be done, obviously. There are challenges with the military response. There are challenges with the development response, challenges with the security response, and there are challenges of human rights. And the multiplicity of actors presents a unique problem in itself in terms of trying to resolve the crisis in the Sahel. And one of the things that we are seeing here is this is where the AU has a very good opportunity to act as a unifying force to ensure that all the actors have a unity of purpose, unity in action, and they're able to bring together all these actors to ensure that they respond to the needs of the people in the Sahel and not to the needs of the actors who are in the Sahel. So before we conclude, we would like to thank, first of all, Dr. Bukar for your exposition on the Sahel. We enjoyed listening to you. We learned a lot from it. Thank you also to Mr. Barry for your presentation. We really appreciate your contribution to this.
Nana.
Yes, you want to say something finally?
Yeah, Nana, excuse me. I need to brief you quickly on the coalition Sahel.
Okay, very briefly. I think we just have a few more minutes to go.
Ok. Donc, il y a eu ce qu'on appelle la coalition Sahel, qui est une approche intégrée au niveau régional qui comprend la lutte contre le terrorisme, renforcement des capacités des forces armées des États du G5 Sahel, l'appui au retour de l'État et de l'administration sur le territoire occupé et l'aide au développement. C'est une n'est-ce pas, initiative des États des pays du G5 Sahel avec l'Union européenne et la France en tête. Demain, le 12 avril, il y a une réunion qui est programmée ici à Bamako avec le ministre français des Affaires étrangères, les ministres.
Sorry, we are not hearing you anymore. Barry, we are not hearing you. I think you muted your device.
Okay. You hear me now?
Yes. You are off again.
Voilà, je dis que il y a une coalition internationale de partenaires qui se met en place maintenant pour le Sahel. C'est une approche intégrée au niveau régional, notamment dans la lutte contre le terrorisme, renforcement des capacités des forces armées des États du G5 Sahel, l'appui au retour de l'État et de l'administration sur le territoire occupé et l'aide au développement. C'est vraiment quelque chose qui prend de l'ampleur et qui va travailler avec le secrétariat du G5 Sahel basé à Nouakchott. Demain, le 12, il y a une grande réunion internationale. Il y a une grande réunion qui est prévue où va participer les ministres des Affaires étrangères des G5 Sahel, le ministre français des Affaires étrangères, M. Yves Le Drian, et le secrétariat du G5 Sahel à Nouakchott, et plus l'AMI Sahel, donc le président Bouya. Donc c'est quelque chose qu'on suit. On pourra vous partager les informations. Mais, merci Nana. Merci.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barry, for that. I think we may not need to interpret that because I think Dr. Bukhar had just mentioned what the coalition does, its formation, its key principles. But I think one of the key things that Barry mentioned is that there's a meeting tomorrow, 12 June, that's taking place in Nouakchott concerning the coalition of the Sahel. We hope that the meeting will be successful and it will bring some or contribute to the resolution of the crisis in the Sahel. So would like to bring this meeting to a close, this workshop to a close. We really appreciate you all for joining us and taking time off your busy schedule amidst the technological challenges to join us. Bukhar, once again, we really appreciate your contribution. Barry, Colonel Sule, who was having technological challenges as well, and all our contributors and participants. Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the very best. Do keep safe amidst these global uncertainties, and take care of yourselves and take the necessary precautions. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nana.